Hello fellow Star Trek fans, welcome back to a brand new season of 10 Forward, brought to you as part of the Clonestar podcast. I am your host Mike Overton, and this time around we are checking out Season 5 of Star Trek Lower Decks. This week it's Episode 1, which is entitled Dos Cerritos. Let's get into it. This season begins with a familiar face taking the tour of a collector's ship, but things quickly go awry when Orion pirates attack. Undercover, Tendi reveals her hidden identity as the mistress of the Winter Constellations, leading the pirates in their mission to collect loot. However, she's not entirely like the rest of her crew. Her Starfleet principles kick in and she holds them back from their usual throat-slashing methods, much to their frustration. Meanwhile, back aboard the Cerritos, the lower deckers are grappling with their own problems. Rutherford has been working himself into a frenzy to avoid missing Tendi. Boimler is stressed that he may have already peaked last season, and Mariner is dealing with the pressures of being assigned new ensigns. The bridge crew introduces what happens to be, well, a straightforward mission involving space-time potholes, which is the setup for this season's ongoing arc. But this supposed routine operation takes a strange turn when they're suddenly pulled into a confrontation with another USS Cerritos, commanded by, of all people, Captain Becky Freeman. The alternative Cerritos has some familiar faces, but with some noticeable differences, including the version of Mariner who commands the crew, although with the curious absence of her old mum. As the two crews meet, most of the multiverse counterparts start bonding, but tensions surface quickly between the Ta'anas, who even engage in some, well, literal catfighting. The two Cerritos crews struggle to agree on which universe is the prime universe, hinting at deeper conflicts to come. The captains agree on a plan to repair the rift by combining warp power and the, well, ever-reliable deflector dish. In the meantime, the lower deckers seem this golden opportunity to learn from their counterparts. Boimler is particularly interested in the confident, bearded version of himself, while Rutherford is impressed by his counterpart, Otherford, who has also achieved cybernetic efficiency at the cost of deactivating parts of his memory, including any of the memories of the alternate Tendi, who has also become a pirate. Shock. Mariner, on the other hand, is eager to learn some leadership skills, but fear that Becky inspires in her crew is a clear red flag. When tensions between the two Cerritos boil over into chaotic brawl, Mariner can't help but exclaim, "What the Zinty fuck?" Love it. Over on Tendi's pirate ship, her sister contacts her with an offer. If her crew can secure an old Orion ship, she can clear all of her debts from the previous season finale and return to Starfleet. Once they board the eerie crashed vessel, they run into Blue Orion scavengers who receive the same tip. In classic pirate fashion, a fight breaks out, but Tendi, staying true to her Starfleet roots, secretly takes a moment to heal the dying Blue Orion, leaving him just a little bit confused. When her crew later discovers that the Blue Orion has survived, they question her commitment to the pirate way of life. However, instead of condemning her, they admit that they inspire to be just like her, ready to follow her less violent code. United, they investigate the ship and find that actually it's a medical frigate, complete with a network of impressive ventilation systems. Tendi starts formulating a plan, determined to help her crew achieve their dreams, whether it's dancing, baking, or teaching ethics in evenings classes, who knows. She embraces a new motto, "You be you, ladies." Back aboard the Cerritos, the first attempt to close the rifts fails, but the rift between the two crew only deepens. Becky pulls out her riding crop into a move so dramatic, Mariner has to defuse the situation before everyone is thrown into a, well, mostly brig of the alternate Cerritos. Despite the escalating tensions, the Boimlers are getting along well, and Rutherford manages to tweak Otherford's programming to improve their friendship, though this is kind of cheating on his part if you think about it. Boimler, meanwhile, can't resist at taking a look at the alternate's pad for, well, tips on being cooler. When the time comes for a second attempt to close the rift, Becky pulls a phaser on Mariner, revealing her plan to switch places and go back to being the loose cannon that she once was. But her scheme quickly falls apart when the real Mariner escapes and both bridges start realising that, well, something's wrong. Captain Freeman soon catches on and Bad Becky returns to her own ship alongside her version of Ransom, who seems quite pleased at seeing her locked up. With the rift finally closed, the Prime Cerritos returns to normal and the junior officers gather in the bar to relax and reflect on the day's lessons. In a playful twist, T'Lyn jokes that she was swapped with her remarkable alternative double, adding to a little levity to the situation. Meanwhile on Orion, Tendy's crew successfully secures the old ship, freeing her to Starfleet. However, the Blue Orions declare war, furious over Tendy's non-lethal and use of laughing gas. It becomes clear that Tendy's storyline isn't wrapping up anytime soon, but that's just as well, as there's another episode released today to carry on the adventure. So, with the start of the new series, it kind of gets off to a bit of an action-packed show. I actually quite enjoyed this week. And I really struggled to find something that I didn't like, or something that they could have done better. I think the only thing that I don't like is the fact that we're not getting another season after this one. I'm really gutted that Lower Decks is ending. You know, that show will always hold a special part in my heart, as it's the show that got my partner into Star Trek, which for that I am forever grateful. And I hope one day that I get to tell Mike McCann that to his face. So, yeah, I can't find anything to nitpick this week, unfortunately. I loved so much in this episode. The storyline I thought was typical Trek, you know, let's have a spatial anomaly and get sucked into a parallel universe. You know, it's typical Trek. They're storylines that we all love. Kind of reminds me a little bit of yesterday's Enterprise, in a way. Obviously being sucked through and parallel universes, but there we are. Just the way that they did the alternate characters, I thought was fantastic. And the other thing I've also noticed is that it's all the little details. Boimler's hair is flipped the other way. You know, you have the Otherford, which I thought was fantastic. That was so well done. And there's a couple of other little Easter eggs, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So make sure you watch the episode on Paramount Plus. But just such a great episode through and through. It really was. And if the rest of the season is going to be this good, I think we're going to be in for a good final season. My standout moment this week, do you know what? I really struggle with this because I think the whole episode as a whole was so well put together and so well done that not one individual thing sort of jumped out at me. Yeah, I actually really struggled to find a standout moment this week. So I'm just going to say the whole episode is my standout moment from this week. Yeah. From the start, you can get a sense the confidence behind this season's opener, with the team perfectly balancing Star Trek humour and character growth. The episode is packed with funny moments from sight gags like the Otherford's tiny arm to sharp lines like what the Zinty fuck. 4 seasons under their belt, the show now leans into character-driven humour, making alternative universe versions a great way to explore what could be for the crew. Boimler idolising his cooler self and Rutherford realising the cost of losing his connection with Tendi were the highlights, even if the comparisons were kind of a little bit on the nose. These glimpses set the stage for the character arcs whilst keeping the space pothole storyline more in the background, which I like. The cast, particularly Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome, shone as their portrayal of their alternate prime selves, adding layers of self-reflection. Dawn Lewis also stood out as her character faced an iconic twist, with her alternate self being sent to Starbase 80. the same fate she imposed on Mariner in Season 3. The show is mastering the balance between the main lower deckers, now 5 with T'Lyn, and the senior officers, with funny moments like Ransom's praising each of the other Billopses, debating his royal alternate. The thematic threads of friendship and family and teamwork run through both Cerritos and the Orion storylines, with the latter delivering the best action of the episode. The Orion subplot also gave the writers room to play with the franchise lore, turning to some of the animated series quirks like Blue Orions and mispronunciations such as the Orions into hilarious new canon. The show proves that it can build on Star Trek's rich history, also whilst developing its own lore. From Billop's royal background to Starbase 80, Easter egg hunters will have plenty to enjoy, with nods like the alternate Boimler's reverse Riker maneuver and the collectibles aboard ship. The Spatial Rift mission is a clever nod to many similar anomalies in Star Trek's history, and a reminder of the Cerritos' role in handling these routine tasks. Lower Decks finds its own way to tell a mirror universe style story, skipping the usual exposition and trusting of the audience to keep up. Whilst the show has had strong openers before, this may be one of the best yet. It builds on past seasons while setting up new arcs, and Dos Cerritos is sure to have ripple effects throughout Season 5, and a brilliant move for a short episodic comedy. I love this episode. I love episode 2, so you'll have to check back and watch the second episode of 10 Forward for that one. Remember, you can get early access to all of our content on our Patreon, which is available at patreon.com/CloneStarPod, or use the link down in the video description. Until next time, live long and prosper.